Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, looking out at the stars through the large windows. The USS Thunderstrike was the biggest and most powerful warship that humans had ever built. It was 1 kilometer long and filled with the most advanced technology Earth could create. Jake had been captain of this ship for 2 years, and he was proud of what his crew had accomplished. The bridge was busy with activity. Lisa Park, his chief engineer, was checking the power systems. Ben Carter, the science officer, was monitoring the computers that helped run the ship. Amy Rodriguez sat at the weapons station, keeping track of all the ships, guns, and missiles. Steve Allen worked at the communications desk, listening for any messages from other ships or planets. Jake was 42 years old and had been in space for most of his adult life. He had fought pirates, helped rescue people from damaged ships, and explored new worlds. But he had never seen anything like the Thunderstrike. The ship had weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Shields could protect it from almost any attack. The engines could make it move faster than any other ship in the galaxy. The Galactic Council ruled most of the known galaxy. It was made up of many different alien species who worked together to keep peace. Humans were new members of the Council, and most aliens thought they were not very important. Earth had only been part of the galactic community for 50 years. During that time, humans had learned to build spaceships and travel between stars. But they were still considered a minor species. The Thunderstrike was humanity's way of showing that they belonged in the galaxy. The ship used human engineering combined with alien technology that Earth had been given access to through the Council. But the human engineers had not just copied the alien designs, they had made them better, in ways that even the original creators had not thought possible. Dr. Helen Cross was the chief scientist on the ship. She had helped design many of the Thunderstrike's most advanced systems. The ship's main weapon was something called a quantum cascade cannon. It could fire energy beams that were more powerful than anything the galaxy had seen before. The ship also had point defense systems that could shoot down thousands of incoming missiles at once. Ryan Bell was in charge of the ship's defenses. He had created a shield system that could not only stop enemy attacks, but actually absorb their energy and use it to make the ship stronger. The hull of the ship was made from a new metal called Titanium X that human scientists had invented. It was stronger than any material known to galactic science. The 800 crew members of the Thunderstrike were all volunteers. They came from every nation on Earth and had trained for years to serve on this ship. They knew they were part of something special. The ship represented the best of human technology and the hope that humanity could earn respect in the galaxy. For 6 months, the Thunderstrike had been on patrol in the outer regions of human space. Their job was to protect human colonies and trade routes from pirates and other threats. It had been quiet work with only a few minor incidents. Jake and his crew were starting to think that maybe the galaxy was more peaceful than they had been. That changed on a Tuesday morning when Steve Allen picked up a distress signal from the colony of New Eden. New Eden was one of humanity's newest colonies, home to about 50,000 people. It was located near the edge of human space, close to the territory controlled by the Zephyrian Empire. The Zephyrians were a warrior species that had been part of the Galactic Council for over 300 years. They had a powerful military and controlled dozens of star systems. For the past few years, they had been complaining about the restrictions the Council placed on military expansion. Many species thought the Zephyrians were becoming dangerous, but no one wanted to start a war. The distress signal from New Eden was breaking up, but Jake could hear enough to understand what was happening. The colony was under attack. Hundreds of Zephyrian warships had appeared without warning and were bombing the cities. The Colonial Defense Force had only 12 small ships. They were being destroyed quickly. Lisa Park checked the ship's location. The Thunderstrike was 3 hours away from New Eden at maximum speed. Ben Carter tried to get more information about the attacking force. What he found made everyone on the bridge go quiet. The Zephyrian fleet had over 200 warships. It was one of the largest military forces anyone had seen in decades. Jake looked at the tactical display showing the enemy fleet. Each Zephyrian ship was heavily armed and protected by strong shields. Their weapons could destroy cities from space. A normal response would be to call for help from the human fleet, but the nearest human ships were days away. By the time help arrived, New Eden would be destroyed and its people killed or enslaved. Amy Rodriguez checked the Thunderstrike's weapons and shields. Everything was working perfectly. The ship had enough power and ammunition to fight for days if necessary. But fighting 200 enemy ships with just one ship seemed impossible. Even with the Thunderstrike's advanced technology, the crew waited for Jake's decision. They knew that attacking such a large enemy force was extremely dangerous. The Thunderstrike was powerful, but it had never been tested in a real battle against so many enemies. If they lost, not only would they all die, but humanity would lose its most advanced warship. Jake thought about the 50,000 people on New Eden. They were farmers, teachers, engineers, and families who had come to this distant world to build a new life. They had trusted that humanity would protect them. The Galactic Council had rules against attacking civilian colonies, but the Zephyrians were clearly ignoring those rules. He also thought about what this attack meant for humanity's future in the galaxy. If the Zephyrians could destroy a human colony without consequences, other species might decide that humans were easy targets. Earth itself might be in danger if humanity appeared weak. The bridge was silent as Jake made his choice. He turned to Amy Rodriguez and told her to prepare all weapons. He ordered Lisa Park to push the engines to maximum power, told Ben Carter to activate all the ship's defensive systems. The Thunderstrike was going to fight. Steve Allen sent a message back to Earth Command, explaining what they were about to do. Jake knew that his superiors would probably order him to retreat and wait for reinforcements, but the message would take hours to reach Earth. By then, the battle would be over one way or another. As the Thunderstrike accelerated toward New Eden, Jake addressed his crew over the ship's communication system. He told them they were about to face the greatest challenge in human military history. Were outnumbered 200 to 1 against an enemy that had been fighting wars for centuries. But they had something the enemy did not expect: human determination and the most advanced warship ever built. The crew responded with quiet confidence. They trusted their captain, their ship, and each other. Lisa Park reported that the engines were running at full power. Ryan Bell confirmed that all defensive systems were active. Dr. Helen Cross said that the ship's artificial intelligence system, which they called Oracle, was ready to help coordinate the battle. 3 hours later, the Thunderstrike dropped out of hyperspace near New Eden. Jake could see the burning cities on the planet's surface and the wreckage of the colonial defense. Ships floating in space. The Zephyrian fleet was spread out around the planet, with some ships continuing to bomb the surface while others formed a defensive screen. When the Zephyrian commanders detected the Thunderstrike, they were confused. Their sensors showed only one human ship approaching. They had expected the humans to send a large fleet to defend their colony. Some Zephyrian officers thought it might be a trick, but their admiral decided that one ship was not a threat to his massive fleet. Jake ordered Amy Rodriguez to target the Zephyrian ships that were bombing the planet. Those ships had to be stopped. First, to save civilian lives. The quantum cascade cannon powered up with a sound like thunder. The ship's point defense systems activated, creating an invisible shield of energy around the Thunderstrike. The battle that would change galactic history was about to begin. The first shot from the Thunderstrike lit up space like a small sun. The quantum cascade cannon fired a beam of pure energy that cut through 3 Zephyrian ships at once. The alien vessels exploded in brilliant flashes, their shields offering no protection against the human weapon. The remaining Zephyrian ships stopped bombing the planet and turned to face this unexpected threat. Admiral Krekstar commanded the Zephyrian fleet from his flagship, a massive battlecruiser that had destroyed dozens of enemy fleets over the years. He watched in shock as one human ship had just destroyed 3 of his vessels with a single shot. His tactical officer reported that the human weapon was unlike anything in their databases. The energy output was impossible according to known physics. Jake Morrison stood calmly on the bridge as enemy fire began to rain down on his ship. Hundreds of energy beams and missiles streaked toward the Thunderstrike from all directions. any normal ship would have been destroyed instantly. The Thunderstrike was not a normal ship. Ryan Bell's adaptive shielding system activated automatically. Instead of just blocking the incoming attacks, the shields absorbed the energy from the Zephyrian weapons and fed it into the ship's power systems. The more the enemy fired at them, the stronger the Thunderstrike became. The alien commanders could not understand why their most powerful weapons seemed to make the human ship glow brighter. Lisa Park monitored the quantum fusion reactors in the engine room. The reactors were producing more power than her calculations said was possible. The energy readings were off the charts, but the systems remained stable. She had designed these reactors using human engineering principles that focused on efficiency and redundancy. The alien technology they had studied was powerful. It lacked the creative solutions that human minds could develop. Ben Carter worked with Oracle, the ship's artificial intelligence system. Oracle was processing battle information faster than any biological mind could follow. It predicted where enemy ships would move before they moved. It calculated the best firing solutions for the ship's weapons. It managed the ship's defenses with precision that seemed almost supernatural. The Zephyrian fleet tried to surround the Thunderstrike, thinking they could overwhelm it with concentrated fire from all sides. 50 ships moved into attack formation and opened fire together. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. But when the energy beams and explosions cleared, the Thunderstrike was still there, completely undamaged. Amy Rodriguez began targeting individual enemy ships. With the point defense systems, these weapons were originally designed to shoot down missiles and small fighters. But the human engineers had made them much more powerful than their alien counterparts. Each point defense turret could destroy a full-sized warship with just a few shots. The Zephyrian pilots found themselves fighting an enemy that broke all the rules of space combat. Their ships could not get close to the Thunderstrike because of the point defense. Systems destroyed anything that came within range. They could not stay far away because the quantum cascade cannon could hit targets across the entire star system. No matter what they tried, more of their ships kept exploding. Dr. Helen Cross studied the battle data as it came in. The ship's performance was exceeding even her most optimistic projections. The metamaterials in the hull were absorbing impacts that should have cracked them. The weapon systems were firing faster and more accurately than their design specifications allowed. Something about the way humans built technology was fundamentally different from how other species approached engineering. Carl Brooks managed the defensive systems that protected the ship from incoming fighters and missiles. The Zephyrians had launched thousands of small attack craft, hoping to overwhelm the Thunderstrike's defenses. But the human point defense network tracked every target simultaneously. Missiles exploded before they could reach the ship. Fighter craft were destroyed so quickly that their pilots had no time to react. The battle had been going on for 2 hours, and the Zephyrian fleet was beginning to panic. They had lost over 60 ships and had not even damaged the human vessel. Admiral Krekstar ordered his remaining ships to retreat to a safe distance so he could report this impossible situation to his superiors, but Jake Morrison was not finished. The Zephyrians had attacked innocent civilians and destroyed a human colony's defenses, could not let them escape to attack other worlds. He ordered Amy Rodriguez to pursue the retreating enemy ships. The Thunderstrike moved through space like a predator hunting prey. Its engines pushed it to speeds that should have torn apart any normal ship. The quantum fusion drive created a field around the vessel that allowed it to ignore many of the laws of physics that limited other spacecraft. Lisa Park watched the engine readings climb higher and higher, but the systems remained stable. The Zephyrian ships tried to jump to hyperspace and escape, but Oracle had predicted their retreat routes. The artificial intelligence guided the ships' weapons to target the enemy vessel's hyperspace drives, without their faster-than-light engines. The alien ships were trapped in the star system with an enemy they could not fight. One by one, the remaining Zephyrian ships surrendered or were destroyed. Admiral Krekstar's flagship was the last to fall. The massive battlecruiser had shields that could protect it from entire fleets, but the quantum cascade cannon punched through them like they were made of paper. The Admiral escaped in a small shuttle just before his ship exploded. When the battle ended, the space around New Eden was filled with the wreckage of 200 Zephyrian warships. The Thunderstrike floated among the debris, its hull unmarked by the hours of combat. Not a single human life had been lost, and the ship had barely used 10% of its ammunition. Jake ordered Steve Allen to contact the surviving colonists. On New Eden, the people on the planet could hardly believe that one human ship had defeated the entire enemy fleet. The colonial governor thanked Jake and his crew for saving their lives and their world, but Jake knew that the real consequences of this battle were just beginning. The Zephyrian Empire would not accept the loss of such a large fleet quietly. Other alien species would want to know how one human ship had accomplished the impossible. The Galactic Council would demand answers about humanity's military capabilities. Dr. Helen Cross compiled a detailed report on the ship's performance during the battle. Every system had worked better than designed. The weapons had been more powerful, the shields more effective, the engines faster, and the artificial intelligence smarter than anyone had predicted. She realized that they had created something that might change the balance of power in the entire galaxy. Lisa Park checked the ship's condition after the battle. Despite hours of combat against 200 enemy ships, the Thunderstrike showed no signs of damage or wear.
The quantum fusion.
Reactors were still producing massive amounts of energy. The weapons systems were ready to fight again immediately. The ship seemed to have unlimited endurance. Ryan Bell analyzed the enemy weapons that had hit their shields. The Zephyrians had used some of the most advanced military technology in the galaxy, but none of it had been effective against human defenses. The adaptive shielding system had not just stopped the attacks, but had actually grown stronger from absorbing the energy. As news of the battle spread through the galaxy, every major species began to reconsider their relationship with humanity. The humans had gone from being a minor species to potentially the most powerful military force in known space in the span of a single battle. The survivors of the Zephyrian fleet, who had escaped in shuttles and damaged ships, carried word of what they had witnessed back to their homeworlds. They spoke of a human warship that seemed to ignore the laws of physics, weapons that could destroy entire fleets, and defenses that grew stronger under attack. Within days, the story of the battle of New Eden reached every corner of the galaxy. Some species refused to believe it was possible. Others began making plans to either ally with humanity or defend against them. The age of human insignificance in galactic affairs was over. Jake Morrison made his final log entry for the day. He recorded that the mission to defend New Eden had been successful, but he knew that this victory would bring new challenges. The galaxy had just learned that humanity was no longer the weak species they could ignore or intimidate. The Thunderstrike set course for home, but Jake suspected they would not have long to rest before the next crisis began. 3 weeks after the Battle of New Eden, the Galactic Council called an emergency session. Representatives from every major species gathered on the neutral station of Harmony, primed to discuss what they were calling the human problem. The footage from the battle had spread across the galaxy. No one could explain how one ship had destroyed an entire fleet. Ambassador Patricia Kane sat in the human section of the Great Council chamber. She had been humanity's representative for 5 years, but she had never seen the other species look at her with such fear and suspicion. The Altarian delegate kept staring at her as if she might explode at any moment. The Crystalline Collective's representative refused to make eye contact at all council. Leader Vexith of the ancient Moran species called the session to order. Morans had been mediators in galactic affairs for over 1,000 years. They were known for their wisdom and calm judgment. But even Vexith seemed nervous as he announced that the council would be conducting a full investigation into human military capabilities. The investigation would be led by Zareth, senior military analyst from the Altarian Republic. Altarians had the second largest fleet in the galaxy and were considered the experts on military technology. Zareth was a tall, blue-skinned being with 4 arms and cold, calculating eyes. She had spent her career studying the weapons and defenses of every species in known space. Zara single quote stood and addressed the council. She explained that the battle footage from New Eden showed technology that seemed to violate the basic laws of physics. The human ship had absorbed energy from enemy weapons and used it to make itself stronger. Its weapons had penetrated shields that were supposed to be impenetrable. Its artificial intelligence had reacted faster than any computer system in the Galactic database. Ambassador Kane tried to explain that humans had simply improved upon existing Galactic technology, but the other representatives did not believe. The Void Runners accused humanity of hiding secret weapons research. The Machine Collective demanded to examine the human ship's artificial intelligence. The Zephyrian representative, still angry about losing an entire fleet, called for immediate action against the human threat. Within a week, Zarath and her investigation team arrived at the Mars shipyard, where the Thunderstrike had been built. The team included scientists and military experts from 12 different species. They came expecting to find evidence of secret weapons programs or stolen technology. What they discovered was far more disturbing. Robert Hayes, the chief engineer of the Mars facility, welcomed the investigators and offered to show them everything. He was a friendly man in his 50s who had spent his career building spaceships. He seemed genuinely confused about why everyone was so excited about human technology. The investigation team toured the shipyard's construction facilities. They examined the tools and equipment used to build the Thunderstrike. They studied the blueprints and technical specifications. Everything appeared to be based on standard galactic technology that had been shared with humanity through normal trade agreements. But when the alien experts looked closer, they began to understand the problem. The humans had not just copied alien designs, they had changed them in ways that made them fundamentally more powerful. A Zephyrian shield generator that normally produced 1 unit of defensive energy was modified by human engineers to produce 5 units. An Altarian weapon system that could fire once per minute was redesigned to fire 10 times per minute. Dr. Margaret Lee, the lead scientist on the Thunderstrike project, tried to explain the improvements to the increasingly worried investigators. She showed them how human engineers had identified inefficiencies in alien designs and fixed them. The changes seemed simple and obvious to her. But the alien scientists were horrified by what they saw. Zaret H realized that the problem was not that humans had developed new technology. The problem was that humans thought differently about technology than other species did. When an alien engineer saw a design that worked, they copied it exactly. When a human engineer saw the same design, they immediately started thinking of ways to make it better. The investigation team examined the Thunderstrikes. Quantum fusion reactors. These were based on crystalline collective power technology that had remained unchanged for 300 years. The crystallines considered their reactors to be perfect and had never tried to improve them. But human engineers had redesigned the entire system to be twice as efficient and 3 times more powerful. Daniel Murphy, the head of security for the shipyard, showed the investigators classified files about human military planning. The files revealed that the Thunderstrike was not unique. Humanity had developed the ability to build dozens of such ships. The construction capacity existed to produce an entire fleet of vessels that could each destroy hundreds of enemy ships. The alien investigators began to panic. They had come expecting to find a single superweapon that could be controlled or destroyed. Instead, they discovered that humanity had achieved a breakthrough in engineering that could revolutionize military technology across the galaxy. If other species could not match human improvements, they would become defensively obsolete. Karen White, the director of the shipyard, explained human manufacturing capabilities to the investigation team. The Mars facility could build 1 Thunderstrike-class ship every 6 months. Earth had 5 similar shipyards either completed or under construction. Within 10 years, humanity could have a fleet of over 100 superships, each capable of defeating entire alien fleets. The investigators studied the ship's artificial intelligence system. Oracle was based on standard galactic AI technology, but human programmers had made it capable of learning and adapting in real time. Most alien AI systems were programmed to follow specific instructions and could not deviate from their programming. Oracle could analyze a situation and develop new strategies that had never been programmed into it. Dr. Lee showed the team how human creativity had solved engineering problems that had puzzled galactic scientists for centuries. The metamaterial. Hull of the Thunderstrike was made from a combination of 12 different alien materials that had never been mixed before. Other species had assumed these materials were incompatible, but human metallurgists had found a way to combine them into something stronger than any pure material. The point defense systems on the Thunderstrike were another example of human innovation. The basic technology came from Void Runner designs, but human engineers had connected multiple systems together in ways that multiplied their effectiveness. A single point defense turret could now do the work of 10 older systems. Zareth compiled her findings into a report that shocked the Galactic Council. Humanity had not cheated or stolen advanced technology. They had simply applied human problem-solving methods to existing galactic designs. The result was military technology that was generations ahead of anything else in known space. The report revealed that human advantages went beyond just engineering. Human pilots could react faster to changing situations because they were trained to think creatively rather than follow strict procedures. Human tacticians could develop new strategies during battle because they were not limited by traditional thinking. Human scientists could make breakthrough discoveries because they questioned assumptions that other species accepted without examination. Frank Davis, commander of Human Fleet Operations, met with the investigation team before they left Mars. He assured them that humanity had no plans to use their advanced ships for conquest or aggression. The human fleet existed only to defend Earth and its colonies from threats like the Zephyrian attack on New Eden, but the investigators were not reassured by these promises. They had seen what human technology could do, and they understood that the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted permanently. Species that had dominated space for millennia now faced the possibility of becoming irrelevant overnight. As Zareth prepared to return to the Galactic Council with her report, she realized that the investigation had failed in its original purpose. They had come to find a way to control or limit human military power. Instead, they had discovered that human advantages were so fundamental that they could not be easily countered or contained. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was no longer the minor species that could be ignored or dismissed. The age of human insignificance was ending, and no one knew what would replace it. The report from Zarath reached the Galactic Council and caused the biggest political crisis in galactic history. Within hours of reading the investigation findings, representatives from major species were calling emergency meetings.
Altarian.
Republic demanded immediate action. The Crystalline Collective suggested that humanity should be forced to share their technology with everyone. The Void Runners began calculating how many ships they would need to invade human space. Ambassador Patricia Kane found herself in the middle of a diplomatic storm. Species that had barely acknowledged her existence a month ago were now demanding answers from her. The Moran Council leader Vexith called her to private meetings every day. The questions were always the same. How many ships like the Thunderstrike did humanity have? When would they build more? What were human intentions for the galaxy? Patricia tried to reassure the other species that humanity wanted peace, but her words fell on deaf ears. The fear in the council chambers was obvious. Representatives who had spent centuries feeling safe behind their powerful fleets now realized they were vulnerable to a species they had considered harmless just weeks ago. Back on Earth, President Jonathan Clark was dealing with his own crisis. The Joint Chiefs of Staff were meeting daily to discuss the changing galactic situation. Admiral Susan Taylor believed that humanity should take advantage of their technological superiority while they had it. She wanted to build as many Thunderstrike-class ships as possible before other species could develop countermeasures. General Pete, Admiral, agreed with Admiral Taylor, but went further. He argued that humanity should use their advantage to settle old scores with species that had treated them poorly. In the past, the Zephyrians had attacked New Eden without provocation. The Altarians had blocked human trade routes for years. The Void Runners had refused to share important scientific discoveries with Earth. President Clark listened to his military advisors, but was not convinced that aggressive action was the right choice. He knew that even with superior technology, humanity was still vastly outnumbered. Earth had a population of 12 billion people, but the galaxy contained over 3 trillion sentient beings. If all the alien species united against humanity, even the Thunderstrike might not be enough to protect Earth. The political situation grew worse when three major galactic powers decided to work together: the Altarian Republic, the Zephyrian Empire, and the Void Runners had been enemies for centuries. But the threat of human military superiority forced them to cooperate. They formed what they called the Defense Alliance and began combining their fleets. The Defense Alliance controlled over 10,000 warships, including some of the most advanced vessels in the galaxy. Their combined military force was larger than anything seen since the Great Wars that had ravaged the galaxy 500 years ago. The Alliance leaders made it clear that they would use this massive fleet to force humanity to comply with their demands. Captain Jake Morrison and the crew of the Thunderstrike watched these developments with growing concern. They had defeated the Zephyrian fleet to save innocent lives, but their victory had created a much larger problem. The ship that was built to protect humanity might have put Earth in greater danger than ever before. Dr. Helen Cross continued her research into why human technology was so much more advanced than galactic norms. She studied the battle data from New Eden and compared it to the performance specifications of alien technology. Her findings were disturbing. The Thunderstrike had not just been better than enemy ships, it had been better than it should have been according to human calculations. Ship's artificial intelligence, Oracle, had made tactical decisions that went beyond its programming. The quantum fusion reactors had produced energy levels that exceeded theoretical limits. The adaptive shields had absorbed and redirected energy in ways that violated known physics. Something about the combination of human engineering and alien technology was creating effects that neither species understood. Ben Carter worked with Dr. Cross to analyze Oracle's performance during the battle. The AI system had processed information and made decisions faster than any computer should have been able to manage. It had predicted enemy movements with accuracy that seemed supernatural. The machine appeared to have developed intuition, something that alien computers had never achieved. Lisa Park studied the engineering reports from the battle and made a disturbing discovery. The Thunderstrike systems had been operating at only 60% of their theoretical maximum during the fight. With the Zephyrians, the ship had defeated 200 enemy vessels, while holding back almost half of its power. If pushed to its limits, the Thunderstrike might be capable of destroying entire fleets without taking damage. The Defense Alliance sent an ultimatum. To Earth, they demanded that humanity immediately dismantle the Thunderstrike and share all military technology with the Galactic Council. They wanted human engineers to explain exactly how they had improved alien designs. They also required that humanity limit its military shipbuilding to vessels that used only basic galactic technology. President Clark called an emergency session of the Global Defense Council to discuss the ultimatum. Representatives from every nation on Earth gathered to decide humanity's response. The debate was heated and difficult. Some argued for accepting the demands to avoid war. Others insisted that humanity should never surrender their defensive advantages. The Alliance ultimatum included a deadline. If humanity did not comply within 30 days, the combined fleets would attack Earth and its colonies. The Alliance leaders believed that even the Thunderstrike could not fight 10,000 ships at once. They were prepared to destroy human civilization rather than allow it to become a threat to galactic stability. Ambassador Kane tried to negotiate with the Alliance leaders, but they refused to compromise. The Altarian representative told her that humanity had upset the balance of power that had kept the galaxy peaceful for centuries. The Zephyrian delegate was still angry about the destruction of their fleet and wanted revenge. The Void Runner ambassador simply stated that humanity had become too dangerous to be allowed to continue developing military technology. Jake Morrison received orders to bring the Thunderstrike back to Earth. The ship would be needed to defend the home system if the Alliance carried out their threat. But Jake knew that even with the Thunderstrike's incredible capabilities, fighting 10,000 enemy ships would be almost impossible. The ship might win, but Earth could be destroyed in the process. The crew of the Thunderstrike prepared for what might be their final mission. Ryan Bell checked and rechecked the ship's defensive systems. Amy Rodriguez ran diagnostics on all weapons. Carl Brooks made sure the point defense networks were operating at peak efficiency. Everyone knew they were facing odds that no military force in history had ever overcome. Steve Allen monitored communications from across the galaxy. The news was not encouraging. More species were joining the Defense Alliance every day. The Crystalline Collective had contributed their energy weapons technology. The machine intelligence had provided advanced targeting systems. Even species that had been neutral were supporting the Alliance out of fear of human expansion. Dr. Cross made a final attempt to understand why human technology was so much more effective than alien designs. She studied the basic principles that human engineers used compared to those used by other species. The difference was fundamental. Alien engineers focused on perfecting existing designs and following established rules. Human engineers constantly asked what if and were willing to break rules to achieve better results. As the deadline approached, humanity faced an impossible choice. They could surrender their military advantages and accept a subordinate position in the galaxy forever. Or they could fight a war against overwhelming odds that might result in the destruction of Earth and all human colonies. The Thunderstrike took position near Earth, ready to defend humanity's home world. The Defense Alliance fleet was gathering at the edge of the solar system, preparing for what they expected to be a final battle. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see if humanity would submit or if the most powerful warship ever built would face its ultimate test. Jake Morrison stood on his bridge, looking out at the stars that had once seemed so peaceful. In 30 days, those stars might be filled with the wreckage of the greatest space battle in galactic history. The fate of humanity and the future of the galaxy would be decided by whatever choice Earth made in the next few hours. President Jonathan Clark stood before the Emergency Assembly of World Leaders in Geneva. The deadline from the Defense Alliance was only 3 days away. The combined fleet of over 10,000 alien warships waited at the edge of the solar system, ready to attack if humanity refused their demands. The tension in the room was thick as representatives from every nation on Earth waited to hear what choice their species would make. Clark looked around the room at faces filled with fear and determination. Some delegates wanted to surrender and accept the alliance terms. Others argued for fighting, even against impossible odds. The debate had gone on for hours without reaching any agreement. Finally, Clark called for silence and announced that Captain Jake Morrison had requested permission to address the assembly. Jake walked to the podium wearing his dress uniform. He had commanded the most powerful warship in the galaxy, but he looked tired and worried. The weight of potentially starting a galactic war rested on his shoulders. He cleared his throat and began to speak. Jake told the assembly that he had a proposal that might solve the crisis without bloodshed or surrender. Instead of dismantling the Thunderstrike or fighting a hopeless war, humanity would demonstrate the ship's true capabilities to the entire galaxy. Every species would see exactly what the Thunderstrike could do when operating at full power. After the demonstration, humanity would make their terms clear to the galaxy. The proposal was risky and unprecedented. No species had ever revealed their full military capabilities to potential enemies. But Jake argued that hiding their strength had created the current crisis. If the galaxy understood what humanity was truly capable of, they might choose negotiation over war. President Clark agreed to the plan. Within hours, a message was sent to every government in the galaxy. Humanity invited representatives from all major species to witness a demonstration of the Thunderstrike's full capabilities. The test would take place in the neutral zone, far from any inhabited systems. The Defense Alliance leaders were suspicious of the human proposal. They suspected it might be a trap or a delay tactic, but their curiosity about human technology was stronger than their caution. Admiral Kostar of the Altarian fleet agreed to attend with representatives from all Alliance members. The demonstration was scheduled for the next day. The location was an empty star system that contained only asteroids and the wreckage of ancient battles. The Alliance constructed a target fleet using 500 decommissioned warships from various species. These ships represented the best military technology the galaxy had developed over centuries of warfare. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Thunderstrike as they approached the demonstration area. Ships from dozens of species had gathered to watch from a safe distance. Never before had so many different governments come together to observe a single military test. The entire galaxy would learn the truth about human capabilities. Lisa Park ran final checks on all ship systems. Quantum fusion reactors were producing power levels that still amazed her. During previous battles, they had operated the ship at partial capacity to avoid revealing their full strength. Today, for the first time, the Thunderstrike would show what it could really do. Dr. Helen Cross monitored Oracle, the ship's artificial intelligence. The AI system seemed almost excited about the coming demonstration. It had been analyzing the target fleet for hours, calculating the most efficient ways to destroy each vessel. Oracle's processing power had grown since the Battle of New Eden, learning and adapting in ways that surprised even its creators. Ben Carter coordinated with the observation ships to ensure they maintained a safe distance. The alien representatives wanted to see the demonstration clearly, but they also wanted to survive it. The Thunderstrike's weapons had never been fired at full power. No one knew exactly what would happen. Ryan Bell activated the ship's defensive systems. The adaptive shields began absorbing energy from the system's star, storing power for the coming battle. The hull's metamaterial structure shifted and adjusted, optimizing itself for maximum protection. Even at rest, the ship radiated an aura of barely contained power. Jake gave the order to begin. Amy Rodriguez targeted the first group of enemy vessels with the quantum cascade cannon. But instead of firing at partial power as they had in previous battles, she activated the weapon's full capabilities. The energy beam that emerged was not like anything the galaxy had ever seen. The cannon blast cut through space like a sword of pure light. It struck the first target ship and continued through 17 more vessels behind it. Each ship exploded instantly, their shields and armor offering no resistance to the incredible energy. Within seconds, 18 warships had been reduced to expanding clouds of plasma. The alien observers watched in stunned silence. The energy readings from the human weapon were impossible according to galactic physics. Some species' instruments stopped working because they could not measure power levels that high. The Altarian Admiral Kostar ordered his science officers to verify their readings 3 times. But the Thunderstrike was just getting started. Amy activated the point defense systems at full power. Thousands of energy beams reached out from the human ship, each one capable of destroying a full-sized warship. The remaining target vessels began exploding faster than the observers could count. The space around the Thunderstrike became filled with the brilliant flashes of dying ships. Lisa Park pushed the quantum fusion reactors to their maximum output, the power levels climbing beyond anything they had achieved before. The ship's hull began to glow with contained energy. The Thunderstrike looked like a small star floating in space, radiating light and power in all directions. The target fleet tried to fight back, their automated systems firing at the human ship. But the adaptive shields absorbed every attack and converted the energy into more power for the Thunderstrike's own systems. The more the enemy ships fired, the stronger the human vessel became. It was like watching prey make a predator more dangerous by trying to defend itself. Oracle coordinated the destruction with terrifying efficiency. The AI system predicted where each target ship would move and fired at those locations before the vessels arrived. Ships exploded while trying to dodge attacks that had been aimed at where they would be, not where they were. The artificial intelligence seemed to see the future. Carl Brooks managed the defensive systems that protected the ship from smaller threats. Fighter craft and missiles launched from the target fleet were destroyed before they could travel more than a few kilometers. The point defense network created an invisible wall of energy around the Thunderstrike that nothing could penetrate. The demonstration lasted exactly 47 minutes. When it ended, 500 warships representing the best military technology from dozens of species had been reduced to floating debris. The Thunderstrike remained completely undamaged, its hull still glowing with absorbed energy. The silence from the observation ships lasted for several minutes. Finally, Admiral Kostar broke radio silence to ask if the demonstration was over. Jake Morrison confirmed that it was and requested permission to address the assembled representatives. Jake's message was broadcast to every ship in the system, and from there to governments across the galaxy. He explained that the Thunderstrike had just demonstrated its capabilities while operating at full power for the first time. The ship had destroyed 500 enemy vessels without using all of its weapons or taking any damage, but Jake had more to reveal. He announced that humanity had 3 more ships of the Thunderstrike class already completed and operational. The USS Stormbreaker, USS Vanguard, and USS Liberty were equally powerful and ready for service. Earth's shipyards were capable of producing 1 such vessel every 6 months. The alien representatives realized they were not just facing one superweapon, but an entire fleet of ships that could each destroy hundreds of their vessels. The balance of power in the galaxy had not just shifted, it had been completely overturned. Jake then announced humanity's terms for galactic peace. The human fleet would serve as peacekeepers, protecting smaller species from aggression and ensuring that no government could oppress others through military force. Any species that attacked civilians or engaged in slavery would face human intervention. The Galactic Council would be reformed with representatives from all species having equal votes regardless of military power. Decisions would be made by consensus rather than by whoever had the biggest fleet. Trade routes would be open to all species. Scientific knowledge would be shared freely. Admiral Kostar and the other Defense Alliance leaders realized they had no choice but to accept. Their combined fleet of 10,000 ships would be helpless against even one Thunderstrike operating at full power. Fighting humanity would mean the destruction of their entire military forces. Within hours, Defense Alliance formally surrendered and agreed to humanity's terms. The Galactic Council met in emergency session to approve the new government structure. Species that had ruled through military might for centuries found themselves equal partners with civilizations they had previously dominated.